Hello, I'm Lesley Biswas. I'm the author of this children's book, Unlucky Chumki. Unlucky Chumki is on the Neev Book Awards 2020, shortlisted in the Emerging Readers category. And I'm so happy to share with you some of the story and why I wrote this book. But before I tell you that, let's read a portion of this book. It's about a little girl named Chumki. She's barely 9 years old and her Dadi considers her unlucky. Now we're all familiar that some people don't take very kindly to the birth of a girl child, and Dadi is like one of them. So let's find out. I'm starting with the first chapter. It's called Chumki's Secret. Chumki felt her cheeks balloon. Her ears became hot and her eyes felt as though they would pop out of their sockets. Standing at the doorway, Chumki clasped both hands to her mouth and pressed hard. But it was too late. Ha! Ha! Hachi! The little mud hut in Bagmundi, a small village in Purulia district of West Bengal, rang with Chumki's sneeze. In the courtyard that encircled the hut, two frightened hens clashed, leaving behind a shower of feathers, brown, black, white, and orange. Dadi, who had been waiting at the doorway to see the children off to school, lifted her walking stick and thwacked the ground near Chumki's skinny long legs. Inside the hut, Aki had just put his school bag on his back. On hearing the whack of Dadi's stick, Aki tossed his bag onto the bed and his fist pumped the air. Yay, no school today! Chumki wouldn't have sneezed if she could help it. She knew how Dadi said it was unlucky to sneeze when people were about to leave home. She could hear Dadi mutter and mumble as she retreated back inside the hut. It sounded like far-off thunder. Why don't you sneeze every time we have to go to school? Quipped Aki, filling his pocket with marbles. Aki hated going to school. Why don't you sneeze yourself? Snapped Chumki, and watched her brother disappear to play with his friends, still wearing his school uniform, pockets jingling. For him, missing school was fun. He would now spend his day playing with his friends. But for Chumki, missing school meant she would have to gather firewood, help her mother fetch water from the nearby stream, and even take the goats grazing. Why does Dadi always blame me for things I haven't even done? Thought Chumki sadly. On seeing her aunt, Chumki decided it was time to understand why. What have I done to make Dadi so angry? Chumki jumped at Pallavi Bua. Tell me, how was I responsible for Aki's chicken pox? If anyone should have got the blame, it should have been the chicken. Fed up of the little girl's questions, Pallavi Bua made her sit down. She told her the most ridiculous reason Chumki could have ever expected to hear. It all began the evening you were born. Pallavi Bua's eyes widened. Chumki's eyes widened too as she listened. Your father's beloved oxen, Bhola and Bholu, were tied under a jamun tree when a flash of lightning killed them, Pallavi Bua said, picking insects out of a heap of rice. So, Chumki wrinkled up her tiny round nose. If lightning struck the oxen, was that my fault? I didn't put the oxen under the tree, now did I? Chumki threw her hands over her head and began to march up and down the courtyard. Nor did I summon the lightning. Of course you didn't, shrieked Pallavi Bua, wondering how to explain it to the 9-year-old girl when Pallavi Bua herself found it absurd. It was even more ridiculous than Pallavi Bua's goat, preferring hot chapatis to tender green leaves. You mean I can make lightning strike? Chumki looked at her aunt. Suddenly, her eyes glowed with delight. Boom! Boom! Chumki glanced at her palms, as if streaks of lightning would shoot out of them at any moment. I can do magic! Don't ask me what you can do or can't do, Pallavi Bua retorted, and wrapping her sari pallu round her waist, she began to pour the clean rice into a tin. Ask Dadi, who claims you did that. But no one dared question Dadi. Doubting Dadi's word was like doubting you had a head upon your shoulders. So if Dadi said Chumki had done that, Chumki just had to figure out how. To find out how and how Chumki deals with this problem, you have to read this book. Now to tell you why I wrote Chumki. When we were kids and growing up in Meklaskeganj, a small town, there was this certain gentleman who everyone considered unlucky. Whatever mishap happened in that township, whether it was lightning striking a tree, animals dying, even accidents were blamed on him. And he knew it. He knew everyone avoided him. As kids, we also took advantage of this rumor, and if we happened to see his face in the morning of our exam and we got bad marks, it was easily his doing. But as I grew bigger and I realized that we had been very kind to this man, calling someone unlucky isn't fun. It must have hurt him tremendously. But we couldn't go back and undo what we had done. So I decided that children should be more sensitive, and the only way that they would realize how hurtful it is to call someone unlucky or any other tag for that is by writing a character who would be similar and they could draw parallels with it. Now Chumki is one such character who has to deal with these problems. She has a similar dilemma, and unlike grown-ups, children, and in this case Chumki, she tries to reason and find out why she is being called unlucky. I would like you to read this book and decide for yourself whether Chumki is unlucky or not. I hope you enjoy reading this book as much as I enjoyed writing it. And let's all together decide that we will never call someone unlucky, because luck, good or bad, both have no reason. Thank you for listening and happy reading. Bye-bye.